Okay, now we're going to move to this program on the leading in the VUCA world. This is a program on emotional and social intelligence. So how do you develop your ability to lead and engage your team? Because we talk about the VUCA world earlier, as I mentioned, because of the complexity, because of the ambiguity, the challenges that you face in leading the team, you need to be able to develop both the cognitive ability and emotional ability. So we have talked about cognitive readiness in the earlier module. So I'm going to talk about emotional and social intelligence. What does it mean? And if you look at today, in many organizations, in various training programs, emotional and social intelligence is important aspect of any leadership program. That leads to the concept that we talked about in the earlier module called the result-based leadership. In the CEE, the results-based leadership is about developing, the first step, you remember, we talked about developing self-leadership and leading your team to success. And leading your team to success requires to be able to demonstrate very high level of emotional and social intelligence so that you're able to create a climate of trust. People believe in you, they trust you, and then you can lead to an outcome of an engaged employee, engaged team who then will be able to serve the external customers who are engaged, and therefore they will come back again and again to your organization. So that's how your results are achieved. So that is a results-based leadership. So I want to focus on the fundamental of that approach. The RBL approach is on developing emotional and social intelligence. It reminds me of the quote by Aristotle. Whenever we talk about emotional intelligence, this is the best quote. And Daniel Goldman, the best-selling author of the book called Emotional Intelligence, and he explained, and he quoted this by Aristotle. And this is very interesting. Listen to this. He says that anyone can become angry. That's easy. But to be angry with the right person, and to the right degree, and at the right time, for the right purpose, in the right way, that is not within everybody's power, and it's not easy. But that is the challenge. How do we exercise self-restraint? It's all right to be upset. It's all right to be angry. Sometimes you need to demonstrate that you have displeasure. It's okay to show you're upset with your team, upset with the situation. But the question is, how do you demonstrate? How do you present their point of view to be able to demonstrate that you are someone who is able to exercise restraint and at the same time convey the message effectively? Now that requires a very high level of emotional and social intelligence. Daniel Goldman, I had the pleasure working with Daniel Goldman when I was part of the Hay Group in the mid-90s, when Daniel Goldman was a very influence or very partner with our 𝐒𝐒 practice, 𝐒𝐒 in Boston, which was established to be able to rely on the work of David McClellan, who was the Harvard professor, the late David McClellan. And Daniel Goldman is a protege and a student of David McClellan. And I think I've read many of the books. I believe that if you are really interested in developing a very high level of emotional social intelligence, read the various readings, article from Harvard Business Review, as published by Daniel Goldman, and the books. Of course, there are many books which I'll talk about later towards the end that I would recommend you to look at. But one of the books that I found very easy to read, the first book that he published was in 1995. It's called Emotional Intelligence. Why it can matter more than IQ. That was the 1995, it was a bestseller. And then 3 years later, in 1998, he published this book called Working with Emotional Intelligence. In that book, and then he explained why leaders and employees generally need to develop that emotional and social intelligence. And he, let me quote him in that book. He says that emotional intelligence is the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and that of others, for motivating ourselves, and for managing emotions well in ourselves, which is the self-restraint, self-management, and in our relationship with others, which is the social intelligence. So he defined it that you need to first know your own self, that's self-awareness, and then you need to be able to manage your own emotion, that is self-restraint, and then how do you develop rapport with others, that is your social intelligent relationship management. So Daniel Goldman, as I said earlier, has published a lot of books besides the social intelligence, emotional intelligence, and then thereafter working the emotional intelligence. Then he published a book called the Social Intelligence, and then Primal Leadership together with Richard Boyarzis and Annie McKee is a very good book that talk about leadership. How do you leverage the power of emotional and social intelligence as a leader? Yeah, so that's a good book for leadership, is Primal Leadership. And of course, the latest book that he has published on focus, why leaders need to be able to develop the ability to attentional control as a source of competitive advantage. Because with all this confusion in the VUCA world, things are happening, with all this influx of data every day, how do you then exercise focus into what you're doing at work? So there are many books. Go on to YouTube, watch the video by Daniel Goldman. They will give you some insights into helping to improve further on your ability to develop your emotional social intelligence. So let me go back to the fundamental, the research by Daniel Goldman about emotional intelligence. There are many books. As I said, the original model by Daniel Goldman, the 5 element of emotional intelligence, was published first in his article called What Makes a Leader in Harvard Business Review in November 1998. And this is a landmark article that I would recommend every leader to read, because this is something which I found that in many grad school, business school, you will have this as one of the must reading for their business leadership program, human resource program. So I advise you.